Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. Now, before we get started this week, just another reminder, next week is San Diego Comic-Con, so there will be no review video. Mostly because the con starts on Wednesday. I pick up books from the comic shop on Tuesday. So I just will not have time to read them while I'm at the con, because if anybody out there has gone to San Diego Convention, it's 5 days of complete insanity. So I'll be lucky to pretty much do anything but do a review video. So definitely check out our Twitter and our Instagram, probably more so Twitter, and probably post there the most. Probably try to post some stuff on Instagram. But I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of news coming out of there. Hopefully I'll get a chance to record some of the panels. Not necessarily some of the bigger panels; those are pretty much, I think, covered. And I always like to try to find smaller, more interesting panels that are really off the radar, that people you normally don't get to see. They're kind of smaller, some of the spotlight panels. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll be able to record some of those and get those up on YouTube for you. So anyways, this week's actually not too bad. It's kind of a light week, which is nice after last week's big blowout fiesta. So we'll kind of get started. There's a number of new number ones this week, so let's get going. First off, we have Daredevil number 1, written by Chip Zdarsky with artwork by Marco Cicchetto. And then there's a Elektra backup that is written by Zdarsky with artwork by Raphael de la Torre. So actually, the really good news is this is actually a pretty good jumping on point for new readers. Now, Zdarsky has been writing Daredevil for a while. Then that particular run ended. Then there was a Daredevil Elektra kind of miniseries that I don't know, crossed over with a bunch of stuff. Now we're back to having yet another new number 1. So what has basically occurred is that Matt Murdock is thought to be dead, but it's actually his brother that was killed. So Matt is taken over his identity. So people think that Matt Murdock's dead. So he now basically is kind of back to being not known as Matt Murdock's not being known as Daredevil. That's really the kind of setup here. So even if you haven't read that, Zdarsky does point out all the points that you need to know as far as that. He goes through it. And so basically, also the Kingpin is supposedly dead, and his son has now taken over the mantle, and his son wants to run, the mob and all all this stuff, but he doesn't want to run it like his father. He wants to be kind of kinder, gentler mob boss. So that's kind of the setup for the series. Now in this first issue, there's this woman that he wants to, I guess, he has a relationship with her. And so the setup is he's trying to get to meet her before she leaves on the train. And so that's kind of the setup. I don't want to spoil the ending. And then so that's the main story. There's an Elektra backup story where she goes back to Styx to kind of rekindle the relationship with the master who trained her and Matt. It kind of sets it up. They're in Russia, so there's kind of like the Russian army, and so that's kind of a side story to the main story. And also Matt is leaving New York. Now where he's going, I'm not quite sure. Whether he leaves New York after the events of this first issue is yet to be seen, so we'll kind of see where that leads. I will say, like I said, it's pretty new reader friendly, which is a big help. And Cicchetto, once again, this team was doing the regular book, which was actually quite good. And so it is a good jumping good jumping point. Zdarsky does a nice setup here. It's a lot of exposition, but I think it's good exposition that he's getting you set up for the story. He's putting all the pieces of the puzzle in place. Once again, I'm a big fan of Checchetto's artwork. It was a really good looking book, and continues to impress me with his artwork. This is really this team is really working together quite well. And I actually like the artwork by De La Torre on the Elektra backup. So actually, I think it's worth checking out, especially if you haven't been reading Daredevil in a while. And like I said, I think there's going to be a few things that you might miss. But like I said, there wasn't anything that I felt was fatal to not understanding in this first issue. So if you haven't been reading Daredevil, I think this is a good jumping on point. Zdarsky's been doing a really good job on the previous series, so I'm really looking forward to kind of where he goes with this new quote-unquote series. Next up, we have Barbaric, The Harvest Blades, #1, written by Michael Morrissey, with artwork by Robert Wilson IV. So this is a one-shot. So it starts off with Owen telling a story of his encounters with his. So for those who haven't read the first Barbaric, shame on you. It's actually really quite good. He has an axe that's a magical axe. So he's also cursed that he can't just kill people with the axe. He can only kill people that are deserving of. So basically, he can kill bad guys and stuff like that. So, and also the axe is possessed. It talks, mostly to annoy Owen most of the time. But it also drinks the blood of the people he allows Owen to kill. So he basically gets drunk on blood. So it's actually quite interesting premise, to say the least. So Owen tells the tale, and then what it is Carmody comes with a thief named Lakendra, and they have to go on a journey. There's also Dark Mystic, and he says, well, I need you to come and save my city because we're going to be attacked and blah, blah, blah. And the axe is like, okay, it kind of sounds like we need to go help him. And Owen doesn't want to do it, but he has to do what the axe tells him. So they go along their journey, and then you find out that the Dark Mystic is a bit of a plant, and that basically Carmody is not really telling the truth to what is going on in the city. And so he learns the truth from Lakendra, and I don't want to really say anymore because I don't want to really give away much of the story, but actually the story is really good. The really shame is Nathan Gooden, it was the regular artist on the main series. Now, unfortunately, Wilson's artwork is really, it really is simple and kind of to me, it has a bit of an unfinished and rushed look to it. It's one of those where like there's times where it is good, but there's times where it's just really basic and not really well drawn. And it's kind of a shame because I think the story's decent. I wouldn't say I loved it as much as the regular Barbaric series, and not because of the disappointing artwork on this, but I think this is just a nice side story, but it really didn't really feel it added much to the original series. It's more of kind of like an in-between between the first series and the second series to kind of keep people interested in the book. Like I said, unfortunately, Wilson's art is really disappointing on the book, and it really is kind of a shame because I think, like I said, even though the story's not particularly the most amazing thing, I think it's a decent story, but then it doesn't help with the artwork that is not really that good, and it just kind of drags the book down. So I really can't recommend this, even if you're a fan of Barbaric, mostly because the artwork isn't that good, and the story's okay. I don't think it really adds a lot to the mythology. So I think, sadly, this is a skip book this week. Next up, we have, this is a really long title, kids, Dark Crisis Worlds Without a Justice League Superman #1 Special. Boy, that's a mouthful. Okay, with the main story written by Tom King with artwork by Chris Burnham. And then there's an Aquaman backup written by Brandon Thomas with artwork by FICO Ozio. So, first of all, the last Dark Crisis special was really not that special. The tie-in books have been really not very good so far. So, I was hesitant to buy this, but you kind of had me with Tom King, and boy, this is really so. First and foremost, this really, you don't need to read this to read Dark Crisis. You could totally read this story on its own. Really, the basic premise is it's John Kent growing up through the years. It takes, it takes place, it shows him at like age 7, 12, 15. So it jumps in different things. And basically what it is John, as he grows up, he's starting to kind of experience different sides of his power. And one of the things is because he has super hearing, he hears things. He even hears things he starts hearing things from Apocalypse. And so it really upsets him because basically, Darkseid just goes and takes over planets and kills people. And so John's it's like a nightmare. It's like waking up from a nightmare. And so John, as he gets older, decides, hey, he's going to go attack, Darkseid's army. And of course that doesn't go well. And it's really fascinating because it's really, like I said, this has nothing to do in a way with Dark Crisis. It's just a side story about Jonathan Kent growing up and trying to understand his powers, understand what he wants to do with his life of being like a superhero. And it's really a great emotional story. And I think what really makes it is beyond that it's really John's story. It's how Lois and Clark are dealing with him kind of growing up. It's just like how you deal with your own kids, but yet he is like Superman. So it's really an emotional story. I really, really enjoyed it. And like I said, even if you're not reading Dark Crisis, I really love this story a lot. It was really good. And then Burnham's artwork it really is just gorgeous. It really adds so much to the emotional impact of this story. It's really good. The only downside I have to say is the backup Aquaman story by Thomas and Ozio is just okay. It's unfortunate for them that the Tom King, the King and Burnham story is so good. It's not that the Aquaman story is bad. It's just kind of a basic superhero. They're going to like a wedding, and a bad guy is gonna blow up the island where they are, and it's just a very basic story. It's not bad. It's okay. I will say Ozio's artwork is really, really nice. It's a really good looking story, but unfortunately the story is just okay. I don't think it's terrible, but it's kind of disappointing after the main story, which no knock on the creative team. I think they did a decent job on the story. It's a little out of place compared to the first story. That aside, this is really I love this story, this book this week. Once again, you have to kind of like Tom King, but I think he really gets the emotional core of characters, and that's why he's so good. So this is really worth checking out this week. Next, we have Above the Snakes, #1, written by Sean Lewis, with artwork by Hayden Sherman. Now, this is the same team that did the recent Thumbs miniseries at Image. I really like that one a lot. So basically what it is, it's about it's kind of like, I guess you could say it's kind of like Justified and Deadwood in the sense of, it's like Justified in the sense of, not that he's a sheriff, but you have this very strong, the strong main character, Dirt. He is hunting this snake gang because they have killed his family. So it's like Deadwood in the Wild Wild West sort of thing. And so that's the basic, it's really a simple basic premise. But I think what's really interesting is how Lewis tells the story, in the fact of that, there's a bunch of people like him in the Wild Wild West. Hey, somebody killed my family or my daughter or my wife, my boy or whatever, I'm going to go hunt them down. I mean, it's kind of a thing that just happened in the Wild Wild West because it was lawless and everything. And so what's interesting is how he, obviously he comes across a town that has a snake gang, but it's not like the main guys. So obvious. So it seems that like on his journey, he will run across members of the gang until he gets to, say, the boss, which is really where he's trying to go. So in this first story, he goes into a town where the snake gang who runs this town basically they get the daughters and they turn them into prostitutes, and they and what it is the mothers owe them a favor by taking their kids, and it's really totally messed up. But basically Dirt goes in, and I don't want to give away too much story because there is a great twist about him going about this town that's really, really fascinating. I really, really like this book a lot. Once again, it's a basic Western premise that's fine, but I think it was the layers that Lewis puts into the story that really makes it excel much more than its premise in a lot of ways. And Sherman's artwork is really nice. I really liked his artwork on Thumbs, and it's really just, it really fits this story really well. It has like that kind of gritty Western feel visual that it needs, and they really Lewis and Sherman just nail it on this book. This is really a good book. I really, really recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I will forewarn you, the first couple pages are a little weird that kind of don't make it, you're like, what's going on? It's okay, just keep going, and then once you get to the fourth page, you'll get going, so you'll understand. So but definitely it's a big pick this week. Next up we have the Mandalorian #1, adapted by Rodney Barnes with artworks by George Genty. So this is an adaptation of the television series, which is nice and everything, but ultimately I don't know that you really need an adaptation. I mean, there have been adaptions. I mean, this is adaptions of television shows and movies is not anything particularly new. But I think the thing is, I mean, we've already got like 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, and I mean, this is all nice and everything, and I mean, it's well done. I mean, Barnes adapts it quite nicely. And I will say it's a really good looking book. Genty is a really good artist, and it looks great. It really is. But it's nice and everything, and I enjoy it, but I didn't, it's like I've seen this. So, that's not saying it's bad. And I mean, I think it's likable. But I think it's just one of those things is you just have to understand this is just an adaptation. It is not anything new. They're not going to change anything. It is just an adaptation of the stories that have already gone before. I personally would have liked to have seen maybe some side stories within the theory or within the stories where there might have been little side stories that you could tell in between episodes and stuff like that, like, oh, well, in between this episode, he went here, and you could tell this story and it wouldn't affect the continuity of the show or anything. But that being said, it's a good adaptation, but it is just an adaptation. But it has really nice artwork. So that's actually a big plus, because a lot of times adaptations usually don't get the best artist, but Genty really, it's a good looking book. So base your buying options on that. Next up we have 8 Billion Genies #3, written by Charles Sewell, with artwork by Ryan Brown. So once again, I am totally in love with this book. And so really it's a simple premise. Everybody on Earth gets a genie and they get one wish. So obviously chaos ensues, and what it is there's this group that is in a bar, and the barkeep makes his wish that anything in the outside world does not affect inside the bar. So they're basically safe from, so if somebody decides that they're going to turn into a monster and go into the bar, as soon as they get in the bar, they're going to turn back into a human. So whatever which they make outside does not work in the bar. But what's interesting is this issue, Soul does something kind of interesting where if people wish, in this case, they wish somebody wishes Jim Morrison to come, and also it's a writer. I'm sorry. And so what it is they're there until, so if the person who wishes Jim Morrison back, he's in the bar, and so it's kind of like a safe haven. But if that person dies, then Jim Morrison basically disappears. So it really kind of affects a current story within that, because the boy wished his mother, the boy in the bar, not inside the bar, outside the bar, wished that his mother would come back. So she is back, but we find out the story that it was the father that wished the mother back for the son. Sorry. And so what it is if the father dies, then the mother, he dies and she disappears. So the kid's like, and so we also see how things are affecting both inside and outside the bar. And so one of the stories is one of the bar guests is on the journey he has to go and do something that he had planned to do before everybody got their wishes. And so his wife is still there. He's traveling. So there's that story going on, but then there's the stuff inside the bar. And what I think is really fascinating with what Sewell is doing with the story is how people interact with the genies. The genies will tell you can ask them questions. They will tell you anything. And that's what really is making this story quite intriguing, is they'll tell you the history of how they work, how this, and it also seems like this has happened before. So that also, we don't know that for sure, but I have a feeling, I think this is not the first time the genies have showed up, because they tell you, hey, somebody did this before. And you're just like, well, wait a second. If this is just happened, how would they know? So I think that's an interesting part of the story that I don't think many readers have possibly realized. So it's just a wild book. It's a great premise, and I really love how Sewell is really laying this story out. And then you have Brown's artwork, which is really nice. It really adds so much. One, I love his genies. The genies are just freaking adorable, but I also love the expressions that he does with them, where they're just, it's amazing. And I really, really love this book, and the twists and turns. We're only in the third issue, and it has taken twists and turns that I would have never thought. So this book is really, I'm telling you, this book is really great. You really need to be picking this book up. Definitely a big win this week. Next up, we have Rogues 3, written by Joshua Williamson with artwork by Leo Max. So we have the Rogues, led by Captain Cole. They've gone to Ape City to rob the bank of the gold. And so Cold gets actually kidnapped, or they get separated, and Cole actually gets kidnapped by another gorilla, which happens to be Angel and the Ape. It's the ape from Angel and the Ape. So you're just like, oh, that's a neat, for those who know those characters, that was a big twist. So what we find out is he's the one who actually laid out, who basically put the traps so people couldn't rob the bank of the gold. So he actually helps them get in, and they get in, and of course, as with any good bank robbery, things don't quite work out well. Things go south for both the Rogues and for Grodd, who is trying to, and of course the police and everything. It's really, this issue is just like the Wild Wild West. It's like the great bank heist that, once again, it goes wrong, but it kind of, there's stories that go out of it, and it's really the great thing I love about what Williamson has done is that this heist is not the end all be all. They actually find out that the gold is not really the big treasure in Gorilla City. They actually find out that there is there's another thing that actually how they make the money, and that just opens up a whole new thing. It also the interesting thing with Grodd and his family that comes into play with his wife and his baby, and that comes into play in this issue. And it really, I really love this because I love the fact that the Rogues are kind of not big known characters. I mean, Captain Cold's probably the biggest known of the Rogues. And it really is just, it's quite fascinating how he's juggling all this in the sense of it's just a heist story, but there's so many layers that he's brought in with the Rogues and Gorilla City, and it's really fascinating. And then Leo Mack's artwork, I really love his artwork. He did Basket Full of Heads, which was just absolutely amazing. And in this is just really knocking my socks off. This is, I mean, the Black Label, DC's Black Label just continues to knock it out of the park, and this one's really good. I cannot wait to see how this one all ends. This is really good stuff. Next up, we have Spider-Punk #3, written by Cody Ziegler, with artwork by Justin Mason. So this week, or this issue, so they break down in Philadelphia. They run into Daredevil. So it's once again, these are all characters that you know, but they're different versions of the characters. So we have Spider-Man, we have Iron Man, we have Ms. Marvel, and now we have Daredevil. And so while they're in Philadelphia, the van breaks down, so they have to get it fixed. Well, in the town, so of course Wilson Fisk is running the town. He also has the mutants. They're a biker gang that works for him. So there's that. So they have to go. So he rules. Once again, this is like a Mad Max. Mad Max meets Spider-Man. That's the premise of this book. And so they have to go to Wilson Fisk to get the part that they need to fix the van. So of course they enlist Daredevil because she knows where he is and all this kind of stuff. So that's the basic story in this issue. I really enjoy this book because I think it, first of all, Niles is not, even though they're different versions of the character, that he's really smart in keeping them in character. Now they have different characteristics because of the post-apocalyptic sort of story, but he makes sure that they don't stray far from what their characters are, which is really a smart move. And that's really what I think is grounding the book, is that he's not trying to change the characters. I mean, they're different, but he ultimately doesn't change really the core of those characters. And then Mason's artwork is just really fun. It really, this book just has kind of a wild visual kinetic look that really obviously matches the story, but they work so well together. And I just, it's a blast. It's just one of those, it's one of those that's kind of a what if story, because there's no continuity or anything. And I think that actually helps because they kind of, Ziegler and Mason get to do whatever they want to. And it's really a lot of fun. This book has been quite a surprise for me. So definitely still worth checking out. I will kind of keep going and see where they end up. Next up, we have A Town Called Terror, #4, written by Steve Niles, with artwork by Seisman Kredinsky. So Henry decides to make a deal with his father to help find his mother. So what we find out this issue is that his father actually got rid of his mother on purpose, and he brought Henry there to basically get rid of him. He sent them both to hell, another dimension, whatever. And because what it is Henry is only half. He thinks of him as a bastard son. So that's what we really learn this issue. And so also Henry's wife in the real world, because the town called Terror is like in a bubble. So she's heading to try to find him, and yet he's not going to be there. So you got that kind of going on in the background. So we'll see where that kind of leads. And so now we have Henry in hell or another dimension. We're not sure where it is, but and we'll see how that, and obviously he needs to get out to get back to, well, one, he wants to go home, but also to make his father pay. Obviously that's coming down the road. Once again, Niles is writing a really interesting story here, and I think I will say the only, I don't want to say downside, the only thing is this is one of those stories that's really going to work well when you read it in one shot. Now I am really enjoying it, each chapter as it comes out, but it's definitely going to be one of those that's going to really read well as one. So considering we're now on the 4th issue, I would say if you have not jumped on, you might want to wait for the trade on this one. But that being said, I do really enjoy it. The really big win for this book, beyond Niles' really good story, is Kredensky's artwork. This book is absolutely gorgeous. Not only is the art gorgeous, the use of color is just absolutely amazing. It really adds so much. And of course, and what's really fascinating is when they go to the other dimension, hell, whatever, it's more black and white, which is really great visually, because then you know, okay, they're in this world, not in this world. And also the world inside the Town of Terror definitely looks different than the outside world. So it's really fascinating how color, once again, can really plays an important part in comics in general. And once again, how good coloring can be. So once again, I think this book is well worth checking out, but if you're not, like I said, if you haven't really started now, I would definitely wait till the trade comes out. But otherwise, if you can find the first like 3-4 issues, definitely go for it. It's really a good read so far. I'm really digging what Niles and Kredensky is doing. And finally this week we have Wonder Woman 789, written by Michael W. Conrad and Becky Cloonan, with pencils by Emanuela Lupacchino and Eduardo Pancico. They're doing the pencils, and the inks by Wade Von Gradbadger and Julio Ferrero. There's also the Young Diana backup by written by Jordi Belair, with artwork by Paulina Ganshu. So basically, Cisco he's put together a team of villains to go after Wonder Woman and her, Etta, Siegfried, and Steve. Basically, but there's also this mysterious kind of organization that is helping him, is giving him like the milk that is become, it's possessing men and stuff, and so it's like rah rah, we hate Wonder Woman. So this issue's kind of a bit of a middle of the story where we're starting. So what it is the League of Villains is kind of went to attack Wonder Woman, and also while they're doing that, they're also going after the other villain team members are going after Etta, Siegfried, and Steve, which of course Diana doesn't know this because she's just dealing with Cisco, or so she thinks. So that's kind of what's going on in this story. So we're kind of in the middle of the story arc. I am enjoying this. Like I said, I was a little disappointed with the last story arc, but Conrad and Cloonan are really stepping up this story arc, and I'm enjoying it. And like I said, this issue is one of those like middle where we're still kind of in the middle, so it's not. There's a lot of stuff that gets known that we learn more in this issue, which is good. The pacing's going along really quite well. The artwork by Lupacchino and Pansky is actually good, although you can tell a little bit of difference between the two styles, but ultimately it's not too jarring, that they are fairly close in style wise, so there's not huge jumps in between the two. So it's a good looking book. And once again, I really love the Young Diana story by Belair and Giacchino, but I really just does not fit into this main story, and it's a real shame, because it really I mean, I hate to say it, a lot of people, Wonder Woman is not a big selling book. And unfortunately, the young Diana story just does not, it really needs to be in its own book. It really honestly should just be in the young adult line, that young adult books that DC is doing. And it just does not fit into the main story. It just really, I mean, we're talking about once again, Belair and Genshin are doing a great job. It just does not fit into this, which is just a shame, because I really enjoy it, but it's really just sticks out like a sore thumb. That being said, I think Wonder Woman is still worth checking out. I'm like I said, I'm really digging this this new storyline, and we'll kind of see where they take it. And like I said, it's really looking promising, and I'm liking how everything's kind of panning out with this issue. That's gonna do it this week. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store there. They have a great pull service, offers discounts on new comics with the pull service, offers discounts on the trades and graphic novels. Annie, Eduardo, Derek, and Wendy, great staff, lots of fun, great customers too. Really good community down there. And if you live in the more metropolitan LA area, there's Pulp Fiction Culver City. It's run by Chris and her team. Same name, different owners. Chris owns that store. Ryan owns the Long Beach store. And they're once again, they have a lot of the same services. Good store. But as always, please support your local comic shop. Very important. I know times are tough, but just make sure if you're buying your comics, make sure you buy them. And support your local comic shop. That's always a big help. And we always end the show with be kind to each other, and also be safe out there. Things are getting a little crazy on lots of different levels, but please be safe. Please wear a mask. Honestly, wearing a mask can really help you right now with these variants that are sticking up. Kind of kicking up, and just be safe out there. And once again, please be kind to each other. Kindness doesn't cost anything. Kindness is just it's just, it'll make you feel good, and it'll make other people feel good. That's going to do it this week. Just again, a reminder, no new review video next week because of San Diego Comic-Con, but watch our social media. Hopefully I'll be able to update as best I can in the chaos. But if you're there, please be safe, be careful, and just take care of yourselves out there. So I'll be back in 2 weeks with the reviews. We'll probably have a stack of books, probably like this big. Who knows how big? Maybe this big. I'm not quite sure. So take care of yourselves. Be kind. Thanks for watching. Please like and share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is Steven from Pop Culture Maven signing out. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.